Hey everyone, welcome to Spiritual Journey. My name is Colleen Jorgensen, your astrologer. And today we're going to talk about the full moon that is coming on the 12th of February in the sign of Leo at 24 degrees. It's going to arrive at 6:55 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 5:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7:55 a.m. Central Standard Time, and 9:55 a.m. in the morning Eastern Standard Time. So this moon lands in that really fiery energy of Leo, and Leo is really quite prominent right now because Mars has been shuffling retrograde and has been since the 7th of December. And it happened there at I should have all my stuff together, right? It happened there in the sign of Leo. So actually Leo is quite prominently expressed and quite involved with us in the next little while, actually. So it was in Leo and Mars headed into Leo on the 4th of November. He headed retrograde on the 7th in the sign of Leo, and he shuffled back into the sign of Cancer. And when he did this on the 7th of January, it was really started to uh, set in stone the concepts of patriotism, protection of country and its sovereignty. Borders were really highly expressed. And no, I'm a Canadian. I don't want to be a United States citizen. And the protectionism that evolved. So this is a real time of identity and sovereignty of who we are, not just as individuals, but where we fit in association with our ethnic background and our country, and who is leading the charge there. So Leo is very much about leadership. It rules kings and leaders, but it also rules the heart center. So Mars is going to be in Cancer for quite some time until we hit April 18th. And then he's going to jump back into the Leo energy. And he's going to be in Leo. He's going to start picking up speed. But he doesn't really get into the sign of Virgo until June 17th. So this energy of Leo is highly prominent with Mars transversing through that sign in the coming months. And this moon is a prelude, perhaps, into what is going to be transpiring when Mars hits this degree on June 6th and 7th. It's going to trigger this full moon and the full moon energy. And so we have a lot going on, as many of you have noticed in the world around us, that we're all really being influenced by new leadership, and especially the leadership in the United States. So this is something that is a little jarring, and we're not used to this energy really. But so it's hard to grapple with it and it's kind of hard to understand. President Trump is a Leo rising. He has Leo prominently expressed in that sign at 29 degrees. And so the heart center is very much in play here. And we need to trust our heart centers. we really need to drop down into the center. And of course, I view the heart chakra as being a very personal area that we can't possibly love everyone, as beautiful as it may sound. And this is a sacred place that we hold those who are very dear to us and the people that we love. And because we place them in our heart centers, when they hurt us or there is problems, we really feel that, and the heart really weeps and struggles with the grief of a loss when it's associated with the heart center. So you really need to be patient with yourself, and you really need to drop down into that heart center and figure out what you really love, what you really want from the world and from your life. And what do you really resonate that's going to fill that heart center with a lot of love? And of course, this Leo is associated with children, which quite often fill our heart centers. And they are worth the risk each and every time. And they're worth the investment. And sometimes we take the risk to create them. And so it really is a center that really bubbles over with joy in many respects. It has a really strong guiding hand, as any good king does. And it's really about generosity. On the negative side of Leo, we can really get this competitiveness. We can really get this power struggle going. The ego center emerges, and then we have a lot of trouble controlling it. They can seem to be sometimes pulling back that generosity to maybe teach something, or somebody needs to learn something. It's very much about goals, ambitions, is about sovereignty, about my heart center, but it's also about creativity. It's about being honest with oneself, and it's full of courage and integrity at its best. So that's what we mark great leaders with, that integrity, the courage, and the honesty to step forward in their own heart center and their own willingness, in some cases, to sacrifice themselves for somebody else. So it's really interesting because this full moon is really like startling. It's going to shake things up here. Maybe shake things up for leaders, shake things up for people and populations. On a personal level, it could really shake the ground that you're standing on, and you could really find yourself falling out of love, abruptly falling in love with certain things. But things are changing very rapidly with this moon, and you got to link it in the future now to June. Now, just before the peak of the full moon on February 10th, Mercury is going to square Uranus, and that's an announcement. That's a big announcement, probably one that some of us aren't so eager to hear. Can cause great disruptions with travel. Also, trade agreements, because Mercury rules trade and negotiations and agreements. And so we could have a bit of like shocking revelations that come at this time. And how are our leaders going to handle this, really? Because hopefully it's kind of seems like the ego part of Leo is really going to emerge. So we really need to step outside of ourselves and really look at things from a different point of view. That would be your best suggestion, especially February 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. that and heading into Valentine's Day. So sorry, bad news. I'm not with you anymore. So there could be a lot of separations here, but yet there could be a lot of forced breakthroughs that we really have no other choice but to risk it, to have the courage to step out of our comfort zone and actually step forward into something new. Then on February 11th, the sun squares Uranus just prior to this new moon. And then on the 12th, shortly after just before the 12th, the moon also on the 12th squares Uranus exact. So we have a whole series of events happening here, which is really shocking. It's very disruptive. Because all these are forming a T square into that really chaotic planet of Uranus, which is under stress in the sign of Taurus. And Taurus is about our goods and services. It's about our incomes, our affordability, what we really want and what we really need. Those all play into that Taurus energy. So we have a lot of volatility going on here and a lot of shakeups, maybe financially as well, and the worth of currency or the worth of commodity that is happening here. We have had a lot of aviation disruptions and disasters. So we could continue to see some of these aviation problems. Now, because Mercury is square to Uranus just prior to this, and then the sun, who could really present leaders who are disrupting the status quo and causing a lot of chaos. There's an objective here, usually with Uranus, and it's to break free from traditional methods and to move and shake and create something different, which can be all good in the scientific field or the space travel or technologies. It could really work really well. But in this scenario, it might not be so good because we could have the opposite. We could have hacking. We could have some scams, disruptions to the internet, and we could hear news of problems with maybe satellites or electrical problems. Earthquakes can happen, and aviation problems. It's really so be prepared, like be awake, because that's what Uranus does. It jars us awake. Like I can't believe this is happening, and it really sends us a voltage of electricity, which could really make us really quite nervous about things. So just take a breath, relax, and you need to drop into that heart center of how emotionally you want to deal with certain things. This could create a backlash in the population as well, with some protests and rebellion, revolution to some degree. So it's really quite a challenging energy that's moving through there. There isn't any commitments here because both the moon and the sun and Uranus are involved with Juno. And Juno is the little asteroid, the goddess that is committed beyond commitment. No matter what her husband did, she stuck with him to the very end. And in this case, she is not so committed. And so people can make promises here and break promises very easily, which could damage the heart or cause disappointment to the population. There's a great deal of resistance that's happening to leadership, and we can kind of see it around the world that leaders are having a real struggle, and the population isn't so content with their leadership and their direction. And so that is causing problems in the world around us as we enter this new age of Aquarius. And we're just on the threshold here. So the next coming years are going to be pivotal for the direction of the world. And Pluto's journey through Capricorn, which really gave leadership strong control, now is shifting, and they may not have the control necessary to maintain that leadership in that direction. So this moon is ruled by that sun. The sun is trying to govern the population because the sun is in opposition to the moon at a full moon. And there's a lot of tension that's going here, perhaps because of disruptions that are occurring. So even the Mercury square to Uranus is still in effect at this time. So negotiations, trade agreements are still on the table, and they're about financial stability and financial doctrines such as tariffs. So that's still in play. The North Node is just joined Neptune, and it's interesting because that North Node and Neptune, the North Node, now traveling through Pisces, and Saturn is in Pisces. So where is the borders? That's where the borders come in. Where's the line of division? And is there a line of division? And so you kind of wonder who's trying to breach into somebody else's territory. The sun, so Neptune's journey and its joining with the North Node creates a new cycle for the future. And what does that vision look like? What do we want to create? And it's in the sign of Pisces. So it's really about confusion about the future, a lack of clarity. But once Neptune steps into Aries on March 29th, we could certainly see the advancement and clarity of what that vision looks like. You got to expect some flooding here with this combination, although it is trying to Juno. We could see some flooding and or heavy rains. So this moon is trepidous because of all of this uncertainty that surrounds it. And this is where you need to be sure-footed in where you stand and what it is that you see for your future. The good news is I always leave the good news till last. So the sun in that liberal sign of Aquarius, and let's all be one nation, one group of people. Let's just join all together. And that is exactly what Trump is kind of saying. Let's make Canada the 51st state. If you want to join me, let's make Gaza part of the United States. Let's make whoever wants to join up with me. Let's make Greenland part of the United States. It's this, let's just be one big group of people. And so, except there is borders and there is sovereignties and sovereign nations and identity of the people with that. So there's a great deal of resistance coming from individuals with that concept of let's just jump in the pool. Mars, of course, is out of bounds, which makes it even a little bit more wild, if it could get any wilder. But it is. Activities and actions can be quite wild. People can step over the traces. to some extremisms and out of character actions and activities that are really not usual. They're really quite unusual. And really, Mars is out of bounds all the way until April 7th. So we have a long haul with this activity and this patriotism, protectionism, wave the flag of your own nation, which is wonderful. That country's, the people in the country are coming together. Mars is going to trine Saturn here. And that is a blessing in the midst of uncertainty and some chaos. Mars is going to trine Saturn and trine Vesta and create this beautiful water grand trine. And it's really saying that we're going to stand up for our land, the people within our land, our own sovereignty, and we're going to protect it at all cost. And we have a pretty good chance of doing that because Saturn in the sign of Pisces, of course, lends to different ideas, faith, stability, discipline, planning, realistic actions in order to do this, sure-footedness. I believe that I can do this. And so on a personal level, it's really good for making plans right now, putting things in motion, creating stability in your life, being sure-footed of where you stand. What do you believe in your heart of hearts? And that's why that's so stabilizing. It's such good energy. But it also kind of brings in the rules and the regulations of what can be done and what actually is not acceptable, can't do it according to certain laws, disciplines, regulatory systems. So that's kind of good news. And Venus, of course, is slowing down here. She is ready and prepared to station retrograde. So she just came off of a conjunction with Neptune, which makes us a bit confused about our direction financially, the financial stability of not only the country, but also of our own holdings. And that can shake us up a little bit. What's going to happen? If tariffs come in, what's going to happen? Like, how are we going to survive? Is there going to be inflation? Like what's going on? So she is going to fold into retrograde station, which isn't too far away on March 2nd. She's in her shadow right now. She's slowing down. She's sitting at 5 degrees of Aries, and she is ruled by Mars. So this planning and this realistic actions, this discipline, stability is really important now for where you see yourself in the future. What steps are you going to take to get to the future? And that's really important as we head into eclipse season in March. And so she's going to she entered her shadow on January 28th. So pay attention to what is happening in your life right now within your relationships, but also within your finances and your financial stability going forward. We're in the midst of creation and creating something new. And when that happens, it also is very unstable energy because we don't know what the final product is going to be. And that lends itself to bewilderment. Don't know. I can only imagine what's going to transpire next. Mars is also sextile to Eris. And Eris is energy of manipulation. I would call it manipulation that causes a lot of discord and a lot of chaos, really. And so this is a good opportunity for us to recognize not the person that's throwing the rocks, but perhaps the person behind the scenes that is creating some of this chaos and disruptions. And this might be a good time to discover who that individual is as we came out of that energy of gossip, and we're still kind of in that energy of gossip and kind of backstabbing energy that emerged there, dislike, discontent. And also, Mars is going to square Eris. So this also leads to a lot of revolutionary energy and protests in the streets. There's really nothing that can control Eris. So Eris is sort of that planet that I just whisper something in your ear to get you all fired up. And then you just go out and I'm going to fix that. And so it has this energy of disruptions. So there could be a lot of planning for revolution. There could be a lot of realistic actions taking place for the purpose of revolting or taking extreme action about something, maybe because you're the one who's excluded, you're the one who's been left out. And so you want to be on the same playing field, and that's what Eris wants. Just put me on the same playing field and I can compete. But if I have a disadvantage, then I can't. And so you guys should know what it's like to struggle a little bit harder because you're not given the same opportunities. And that really speaks to a lot of us that we don't have the control, we don't have the power base. What are we going to do? Us just as individuals, how would we ever fight against the conglomerate that has been created? And we can only do that by coming together as a group of people. And that's where the sextile, somebody could step forward as a leader here and sextile and plan strategically next moves for the population at large. And do you really want this? Is this something? This is full of passion with this moon. And then as we get into June, you have to really pay attention. June is a really volatile month in 2025. And so I'm going to warn you about that now, and we can maybe talk about some things that are related in another video about Canada and the United States and and where the United States is heading as its own sovereignty and its own nation as it goes through its Pluto return, which is a long process, which triggered, of course, back in 1776, triggered the independence of the United States from Britain. And so I'd just like to say briefly here, because they're having this Pluto power struggle, and we are having similarities between what happened back then and what is happening now. And, in a nutshell, the United States tried to break away, which is Uranus, tried to break away from Britain, who had a real hold on the world at that time. It was the main world leader that was and had developed the Commonwealth, and many countries were aligned and conquered under British rule. But the United States said, forget this. I don't want to be I don't want to pay your debt and get nothing back from it. I don't want to dole out all this money and just see it just go to you guys and your dad and your dysfunctional ways. That was the start of the struggle between the independence of the United States. And if you really look at what's happening now, as Trump says, I don't want to pay you guys out there anymore. I'm not getting bang for my buck. I'm contributing to all of these countries and I'm being treated unfairly and I'm not getting what I deserve, and the people of the United States are not getting what they deserve either. And so this is the beginning of that transition. And where the United States goes with this energy as it goes through that 248-year cycle is going to be very interesting, because the United States back in 1776 said, I need to protect my own self-interests and I don't want to be paid, have you dragged along with me as a result of this. And of course, it led to the revolution, which created the Constitution of the United States. So we'll see where that's headed. So pay attention to this. Drop into your heart, close your eyes. What is it that I truly love? What do I want, not only for myself, but for the people around me? And how am I going to create that? What planning do I need to do in order to create that energy of productivity and advancement? So good luck to you all. Pay attention to June and the energy that is unfolding right now. It's like a soap opera, hey? Okay, I'll chat with you later. Have a great day. Bye.